Welcome to Melt University's 2020 summer program. This year, our virtual intern program will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Here's your host, President and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome, summer virtual Melt University 2020 interns. I'm Vince Thompson, founder, chairman, and CEO of Melt, and I'm proud to continue our series this summer of amazing podcasts from some of the great leaders in the event and sports marketing industry. I am very, very proud and pleased to have a very, very long time and dear friend of mine on today, Ty Votaw. Ty Votaw currently serves as the Executive Vice President of Global Business Affairs for the PGA Tour, where he oversees all and every aspects of the tour's international strategy, which is just amazing with the popularity of golf worldwide and the responsibilities that Ty has. It's going to be an amazing day today. He supervises really all the business lines of the international event side of the business: media, corporate sponsorship, licensing, the TPC properties, and all the other revenue streams. And it's been involved in the sport and industry of golf and professional golf at the highest levels for many, many years. And so it's going to be a delight for him to join us. And he was very, very integral and instrumental in bringing golf to the Olympics in 2016, which was amazing, and is the executive director of the Olympic Golf Committee, so you can talk about that experience today. Ty is originally from Greenford, Ohio, graduated from Ohio University, earned his law degree as a Tar Heel at the University of North Carolina, and does a lot for that great institution, and my great friend, the athletic director, Bubba Cunningham. But where I first met Ty in the spirit of relationship building, relationship maintenance, and evolving relationships, is he was the general counsel for the LPGA. I was in the marketing for the Health South Corporation, and we met. Health South had a tournament, and he was the general counsel, and we worked on a golf tournament from West Palm and moved it to Disney. Really, really hit it off. Ty evolved as the commissioner of the LPGA, and then moved from the LPGA, successful stint as a commissioner, where he has a top responsibility for the PGA. So it's a great honor and privilege, Ty, to have you join our podcast today. So thank you so much for your time.
Vince, it's a real pleasure, and I think what you're doing here for your interns in this odd world that we're living in now is really, really a great. Like everybody's had to do in this situation, we've had to adapt to the circumstances that have been thrust upon us, and to be able to do a virtual internship to the levels and numbers that you're doing to really help educate hundreds of young people on the ways of sports marketing and careers in marketing. It's a real, you and your team, I think it's just a very, very impressive and filled with purpose. And as someone who has been in the sports marketing area for as long as I have, internships aren't easy. They're even harder in a situation like this. But you've really done a great job in making it, pardon the pun, but making lemonade out of lemons on this one.
Well, thank you so much. And as I told you, we had always had a dream of making this virtual. I love our live intern program. We're going to have it again, but to be able, because when great speakers like yourself would come in, I'd say, hey, God, I really want to share this outside of this advice out of the conference room with our 40 people, huge intern program. And then physically, sometimes we might not be able to get you to come in because you were traveling overseas or something like that. So to your point, we're making lemons out of lemonade, making lemonade out of lemons, but I'm beginning to get a lot of tremendous feedback from our students, and that they're already connecting with people like yourself. They're already reaching out to you like LinkedIn. They're already sending you handwritten notes. They're already building these relationships, softening the target as we speak. But let's sort of step back a minute, because I'm always very fascinated with people's career path. And it, Ty, a lot of emerging themes this summer is, hey, life's not linear. You're going to get obstacles. You're going to get thrown off the saddle. It's how you get back up on that saddle of really what makes the difference. But talk about your journey into the world of professional golf and the industry. Did you have a passion for sports? Did you have a passion for golf, or was this something that happened organically, serendipitously? Because like I said, I'm always fascinated with the path and the journey of our guest.
Well, yeah, I always had a passion for sports. I wouldn't say, I mean, I'm living proof that you don't have to be a good golfer to be in the golf business. And that's been my for almost 30 years now.
Right.
What my sport of has been. I've been in the professional golf business. But I went to Ohio University, as you mentioned, for the purpose of going into their sports administration program. I wanted to figure out a way to have a career in sports. I did an internship with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 1982 when Ted Stepien, which is one of the worst owners in the NBA's history, owned the Cavaliers. And
Right.
During that internship in 1982, I spent a fair amount of time talking to Ted Stepien's outside lawyer, who would always be involved in meetings during this period of time, and he was a impressive guy, a guy named Kent Schneider. And my career shifted after talking with him, and I decided, instead of going to the sports administration program at OU, I decided to go to law school instead, and went to Chapel Hill in North Carolina, and went there for 3 years, and was fortunate enough to start uh, in my law career with a law firm in Cincinnati called the Taft Law Firm. They represented the Cincinnati Bengals. They represented Pete Rose in his case against Major League Baseball when they suspended him, and Bart Giamatti. I was in their corporate transactions area, and got involved with a gentleman by the name of Charlie Meacham, who was a client of the firm. He was the CEO of Taft Broadcasting, and he and I worked together for my first 3 or 4 years at the firm. And he fortuitously uh, retired from the Taft Broadcasting company, and came back to the law firm where he started his career. And I worked with him even closer. And during that time, he was approached to become the commissioner of the LPGA. And I was a fourth or fifth year associate of the law firm, and I'd always wanted to do something in sports. Here was a guy I'd worked closely with, had been a mentor to me. And so one day I walked into his office at the end of near the end of 1990, and said, if there's ever any job at the LPGA you think I'd be qualified to do, I'd be interested to come help you. And I was on a partnership track at the law firm, just married for a couple of years at the time. And it was an open door I walked through that, if I hadn't walked through it, I probably would have stayed at the law firm, hopefully made partner, and maybe had a long career as a corporate lawyer. And I may have made more money, but my life wouldn't have been as interesting as it has been with me walking through the door that I walked through. And fortunately, Charlie called me, and 6 months later, I was the general counsel of the LPGA, and was with the LPGA from 1991 to 2005. And the last 7 years of that time, I was commissioner of the LPGA. I had gotten involved outside of the legal side of the business into the business side of their business about 3 or 4 years into my time at the LPGA, and that gave me a real 360-degree view of what sponsorship looked like, what media looked like, what tournament operations, logistics, sales looked like, and that kind of laboratory that I was able to be a part of for the first 7 years or 8 years of my time at the LPGA gave me a lot of good foundational experience, that when I became commissioner, we were able to do a lot of great things in those 7 years. By the time I left, we took the average purse from about $400,000 an event in 1991 to over 1,500,000, 1,600,000 when I left in
Mm-hmm.
2005. A smattering of our events in the LPGA were on television when I left in 2005. All of our events were on television,
Mm-hmm.
either Golf Channel or ESPN or ABC, NBC, CBS. And so, having thought that I had accomplished just about everything I could accomplish at the LPGA, I was fortunate to be approached by the PGA Tour to come help run their international business, which I started in 2006 with them. And as part of that, I went through a number of other areas. You mentioned the Olympics in the introduction. I helped drive with the rest of the golf industry and a lot of really great people. We did a collaborative, industry-wide, coordinated effort to get golf back in the Olympics. That was decided by the IOC in 2009 for the 2016 games in Rio. And I often say to people, one of the great things about golf, we said in our presentations to the IOC, is that if any city in the world that was capable of hosting Olympic Games would also have a golf course capable of hosting an Olympic golf competition. And so you wouldn't have to build a new
Right.
golf course, and you wouldn't have these white elephants that exist after an Olympics league. Well, what they did is they awarded the Olympics to the one city in the world, Rio de Janeiro, that didn't have a golf course that was worthy enough of
Right.
so we had to build one, and fortunately, it's still in existence. It's the only Olympic venue that was built for the 2016 games that's still up and running and operational and exists to
Wow.
this day.
Wow.
So we feel that's probably getting golf in the Olympics and getting that golf course built and bringing golf off successfully for the first time in 112 years. Last time golf had been in the Olympics was 1904.
Mm-hmm.
And getting all that done was something that was, as I said, an industry combined effort by everybody in the industry, and one of my more proud moments. And so as a part of that, my everyday path now at the PGA Tour is to focus on the U.S. is the largest golf economy in the world. We have more golfers, more golf courses. The PGA Tour and the LPGA are based here in the United States, and they're the biggest and most successful golf tours around the world. But our growth potential is going to be over the next 50 years internationally, and trying to grow golf around the world. The Olympics would be a big part of that, we think and hope. So now, as part of that, we have 3 tours around the world, developmental tours that feed into our Corn Ferry Tour, which is PGA Tour Latino America, PGA Tour Canada, and PGA Tour China. We have offices in Tokyo and London and Beijing. We've got 85 players from 30 different countries around the world playing on the PGA Tour. And our television product, week in and week out, is broadcast to 225 different countries and territories in about 22 different languages. And so it's a very different piece of business today than it was in 2006 when I came to the PGA Tour, and it's something that the entire organization, from the commissioner Tim Fincham, who was the commissioner when I got here, to now Commissioner Jay Monahan, and the senior leadership of the tour have really done a great job in prioritizing our international growth and our international story from an investment perspective and from a focus perspective. And it's really great to be a part of that, because I never have the same day twice. And dealing with people in Latin America is very different than dealing with people in Asia. Dealing with people in Korea is different than dealing with people in Japan. And so you have to shift gears and understand where people are coming from their culture, from their heritage, how they do business. Golf is something that you can use to entertain people in the United States, but the concept of entertaining corporate guests in golf is really a foreign subject in a lot of countries around the world. And this gives us an opportunity to teach people how that can help their business.
Well, I mean, we got so much to unpack based on what you just said, but the one overarching message to, our listeners, our kids, our students is that there are so many amazing job opportunities in the sport and business of golf. Golf truly is a gargantuan international sport, gargantuan global sport. Obviously, Ty has done a lot to open up those avenues through the Olympics and globally. And I'll break it down for you a little bit as he talked about developmental tours. There's the PGA Tour. There's the LPGA Tour. There's a champions or a senior tour. There is the PGA of America. There's the USGA. There's the international side. And then when you break it down within that, there are tournament operations that go on within everything I just laid out. So within, if you, and this is a great thing, is whether you're a student in Birmingham or Texas or Arizona or Louisiana, there's probably these types of golf tournaments that you can go to work for. In Atlanta, for instance, we have the Tour Championship, and it's staffed by amazing people. They run it year round. Their sales, their tickets, their fan experience, sponsorship, data analytics, and logistics, and putting on that tournament. And Ty, we've at Melt, we have had a tremendous success working with the tour, working with Allison Fillmore, who's going to be on, who runs the Tour Championship, Joe Norton, who was a very successful graduate of your training program. The PGA, in my opinion, has one of the most successful training programs for young, rising sports marketing executives. So I want you to talk about the PGA Tour training program, how kids can get involved, how what they should be doing right now to get prepared for that. So talk about that training program, because I was just blown away when Joe told me the depth of what you do, and how difficult it was for him to go through the process to even get qualified to be in the program.
Well, yeah, you're referring to the kind of executive director and training program for
Correct,
tournaments.
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
we have 47 tournaments around the PGA Tour, and when you add Champions and Corn Ferry and the 3 international tours I mentioned, we close to 150 tours or tournaments that we have across those 6 tours, and each one of them has a team that it works 52 weeks a year. They don't just work 1 week out of the year. They work 52 weeks out of the year to put the 1 week on. And typically, the head of that that tournament's team is an executive director, a tournament director, CEO of that enterprise. Mm-hmm. And in order to find people, we found about 7, 8 years ago, we determined that the pipeline for identifying people with skill sets that could be part salesperson, part CEO, part cheerleader, part Chamber of Commerce representative for a tournament in a given city, whether that's in Atlanta, like you mentioned, the Tour Championship, or this week in Hilton Head with the RBC Heritage. And so we developed an executive director and training program that brings people in. They get experience with us across all the disciplines you mentioned: sales, operations, finance, etc. To how the circus that comes to town operates, and it's the same kind of thing that happens when a college game day comes to a college campus on that one day, but this is spread out over a 7-day period, and then that circus goes someplace else the next week. And there's another tournament staff and another executive director that runs that. And so when we bring people in, we give them this training, and when a position opens up on either one of the owned and operated events that the PGA Tour is responsible for, or if it's done by, if we don't own and operate an event, we have host organizations that run events in communities that raise monies for charity as part of the tournament. All net proceeds of the PGA Tour events go to the benefit of charity. We raised $200 million for charity last year for 3,000 charitable organizations around the country. And so that program that you identify is a way for us to tap into a pipeline. If a opening comes up, we're able to have a conversation with the tournament organization, if it's a host organization, or ourselves, to say this would be a good opportunity for someone to step into, be that CEO and that executive director of that tournament.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, and like I said, I think, you tend to look at golf as sort of a state and a slower game. It's not as action packed as say the NFL, but I will tell you, based on my working and interaction with every major sports organization in this country, the sport of golf and the PGA Tour does as good of a job as any organization in the country at identifying young talent, cultivating young talent, creating those opportunities, positions for young talent. So, to our students listening, you may not have thought of a career in the industry and business and sport of golf, but I'm telling you, it is tremendous stepping stones. So, Ty, I want to step back to a couple of things that you said earlier in the podcast, is that, and this is one of my big themes, and I taught it on the Lunch and Learn. It's going to be in my book, but the kids will tell you, is that you gotta take that shot. You gotta take that shot. When I was in my first journalism class, it was taught by the SID. I wanted to be over there, and after the class, I walked up and said I want to volunteer for the Auburn SID, and the rest is history. If you had not taken that shot to go into Charlie Meacham's office, who's an unbelievable fella and leader in the industry for many years, and said, "Hey, Charlie, if there's ever an opportunity that arises that fits me, I'd like to be considered for it," how different your life would have been. So I talk to these kids about, hey, you see that shot, take it. Our motto is the only failure is the failure to try. And so talk about how important that is and how you encourage your kids to take that shot.
Well, I would say that was the third time I walked through a door that was open to me that provided an opportunity. The first time was when I talked to Kent Schneider when I was that intern at the Cavaliers. I was in the PR public relations department of the Cavaliers there, and I spent more time talking to the lawyer than I did that, and that changed my career track to go to law school instead of going to a graduate program for sports administration.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got to the firm, just establishing the relationship with Charlie, he had come to the firm and gave a speech and said and I was a young lawyer at the time, and he said, "Look, lawyers should volunteer their time to good causes, whether it's charity or whether it's civic or whether it's," and I was half listening to the speech at the time because
Right.
I was trying to bill hours I was trying to be a good lawyer and spend a lot of time doing the legal work that it's expected of you. And about a month later, he opened up the Cincinnati Enquirer, and which is a newspaper for all the young people on this podcast. Um, it's a novel concept, but
It's very novel now.
Yeah. And he had formed, and other corporate chieftains in Cincinnati had formed the Greater Cincinnati Sports and Events Commission that was intended to bring amateur sporting events to Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called him up. He was the CEO of one of our biggest clients. I was a young associate. I didn't know him from Adam, but I called him. And I said, "I was listening intently to your speech last month at the firm where you said people should volunteer for civic or charitable or community types of endeavors. And so I'd like to volunteer to be the general counsel of the Greater Cincinnati Sports and Events Commission." And I had called his bluff. Yeah, basically had taken him up on his advice. And so what could he do?
Wow.
And so from that was a relationship that resulted in me walking through that door in November of 1990 and had the LPGA conversation. So those three things, just when you see an opportunity, don't be afraid to take it and to walk through that door. And what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no to you.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're going to make mistakes, make big mistakes. And
Right.
And that's my best advice to young people today, is that if you see an open door, don't be afraid to walk through it.
Well, what we talk about too is, and you just hit the nail on the head, is that what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to tell you no, and then so we teach these kids, don't ever take it personally. I wish I had learned this lesson a long time ago when I was at their age, is that, you don't know why somebody's telling you no. And we say that the letters NO are just the first two letters of the words not yet. No doesn't mean no. It may mean no at that moment. But the second thing to your point is that you're basically entire arc of your career, the entire arc of my career was because we were willing to take those shots. We were willing to put ourselves out there. We were willing to put ourselves in that position to win. And so, students, you're going to hear it all summer long. But Ty, to transition to another big topic is that the book that I'm writing is Building Brand You. And we tell our kids they've got to begin considering themselves as a brand right now, and how they position themselves on LinkedIn, how they position themselves on social media, the things that they are doing on their college campuses to build and pad that resume to create that selling story. Listen, you may be trained in legal, but you're also one of the top brand guys in the world because you've been around major corporations, major brands, major celebrities, major athletes, major professional golfers your entire career. So you know as much about brands as anybody. But what stands out to you? What will make kids stand out to you if they're reaching out to you on LinkedIn, or they're reaching out to you in a handwritten note, or they're sending you a resume, or they're communicating through friends and family? What stands out to you? What gets your attention? What makes you want to respond to the kids, and what makes you not want to on the other side?
Well, it's a great question. It's one that I have a philosophy that sometimes people scratch their head on a little bit. I tell young people, whether I go to a college class at OU or at North Carolina or something like this, I tell our own interns at the PGA Tour that we are looking for the best lawyers, the best marketing people, the best salespeople, the best finance people there are. And so the bottom line is you got to develop a skill set that sets you apart. Because sports is like any other business. It's just a different type of business where it may be a little sexier. It may have a little bit more media coverage. It may be on television. The results are in the news, in the media every day. It's still a business, and you need talented people to do it. So if you write me a letter, or you lead with your passion for golf, because I said at the outset, I'm living proof you don't have to be a good golfer to be in the golf business. I love to play. I love the sport. But I really wasn't a big fan growing up, but I wanted to do something in sport. If someone were to call me and say, I'm a scratch golfer and I want to combine my passion for golf with my career, and that's all they have going for them, I usually throw those in the bin. But if I have somebody who is the top of their class, or has done no small amount of civic or community or extracurricular activities, and stood out academically, and stood out from a perspective of developing a skill set that they want to make a career out of, and they have an interest in golf, then I listen to them, and I want to see what makes them tick. But there's this in the golf industry. There's sometimes is this inverted thinking that the lower your handicap, the higher your IQ. And I think it's actually,
right.
I actually think the opposite is the case in some of my experiences. And so develop into being the best at what you want to do. And if you have a passion for golf, that's an additive, but it's not the thing that's going to get you the job.
Well, you just absolutely hit the nail on the head. And so, to our students, I hope you're listening, because we're talking about building your brand. We're talking about the positioning of your brand, and we're talking about what goes into that position of that brand that gets people's attention at the level of a Ty Votaw. So, you're hearing it, directly from the people who have an influence on this process. And here's the thing, Ty, that we always tell them: you got to forget that, first of all, we're all really, really busy people flying all over the world, running businesses and tournaments and those types of things. And because so the other thing is that, and then we're getting solicited all the time. And so you've got to position and package and brand yourself to get in that top 5 percentile, to get noticed. And at some point, I use the pun intended, the putt's going to fall and you're going to get that job, because in the post-COVID world, there, in particularly marketing services, and there's no, golf's just come back without fans, and it's trickling back, but it's not a cascade yet. There's going to be more people looking for jobs in this industry than ever before, and people who are very highly qualified, who are out of work, are going to be willing to take a lesser job for lesser pay, and it's going to suck the oxygen out of a lot of these entry level jobs. So we're trying to equip them with the right tools here. So speaking of tools, good segue. What informs you daily right now in the sports business and industry? What do you read every day? What do you consume every day? What are the books, podcasts, websites that you could share with our kids to inform them of where to continue to look for opportunities in the marketplace?
Well, I think there's a lot. I mean, there are a lot of trade publications in the sports area generally, whether it's Sports Business Journal, Sports Business. I've never been a LinkedIn guy, just so you know. It's great for other people. It just hasn't been for me. I've been fortunate enough to have 3 jobs in my career: a lawyer, LPGA, and the PGA Tour. And so I've focused on the job I'm doing for the person I'm working for, and I haven't really. I have great relationships and I have great friendships, but I've always done it for what I could do for them, not what they could do for us or for me. So but I would say, if I could, this may not be a direct answer to your question, but I have 10 maxims that I tend to tell people about that are that for them. And number one is never lose the capacity to be surprised. Always be curious. Or the opposite maxim, which is never think you have all the answers, because you never do. Never lose the capacity to be surprised. Number 2, be tough if you have to be, but don't be a jerk. Or its opposite maxim, be a good guy, be a good person. Because in any interview that I have had, and I ask other people, what'd you think of this person? What'd you think of that person? Invariably, it comes down to, he was a good guy. She's a good person. She's a good guy. I mean, be a good guy. Right. Because the person you're an asshole to today will be your boss tomorrow. And so you got to be mindful of that. Number 3, keep your eye on the larger canvas, not just the details of your job or department. Be curious, and everything relates to everything else. So something that happens over here is going to have an impact over there. And if you have the capacity to see 360 degrees of view, that's going to help you. Try not to leave your common sense at home or in the car when you go to work, whatever you do. Common sense is a big thing for me. Life is hard, but it's really hard if you're stupid. So be smart. Always strive to get better and smarter. It's your obligation to learn every single day. Number 6, the best deals are the ones that get done. Number 7, once they're done, don't second guess yourself. Could I have gotten more money? Did I get screwed? The best deals are the ones that get done. Number 8, you can't do it alone. A leader without a team is like a general without an army. No matter how hard you work, no matter how inspired the idea or strategy, you will lose if you don't have a team that helps get it done. Number 9, the customer is always right. Lou Gerstner once said the customer is always right. He's a former CEO of IBM. He said the customer is always right, but you have to have the right customer. Who do you want to do business with? Do you want to do business with someone who has all the answers? Someone who is an asshole or a jerk? Someone who only cares about his business, who doesn't see the larger canvas of what the rest of the world looks like? Someone who is stupid or isn't somebody who wants to learn things? Someone who is always about him winning or her winning and you losing in a negotiation? Someone who is always there when he needs you? Is that the kind of person you want to do business with? Those aren't the right customers. The right customers are the people who are open to that offbeat idea, who is a good person in what they do and how they operate in their everyday lives. Someone who looks at things from your perspective while evaluating his or her own problem. Someone who is smart. Someone who is interested in win-win negotiations. And someone who wants to be there when you need him, not the other way around. And then lastly, and this is really important in the times we're into now, always take a global view. Be sensitive to diversity. Be sensitive to another person's cultural heritage. Be sensitive to how they view the world and not just because how you view the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I'll say, Vince, and I know we're a little over time here, but
No, it's just great.
You got to remember, there are three examples of when I say if you're going to make a mistake, make big mistakes. Martin Luther King Jr. got a C in public speaking at the Crozier Theological Seminary in 1950. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest orators of our time got a C in public speaking. Michael Jordan was cut from his freshman basketball team. And John Grisham's first book, A Time to Kill, was rejected over 45 times before it was published. So those are three examples of three pretty impressive people who failed at one point in their. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't let it define you. Learn from it, and understand that if you do those 10 things, and my experience has been if you do those 10 things, and you're mindful of the fact that there are some pretty successful people in this world who have had setbacks. You're going to have. I've had setbacks. You're all going to have setbacks. I know, Vince, you've had setbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Look where we are. Mm-hmm. That's the best advice I could give anybody, and I hope that's helpful.
Well, I actually, kids, I hope that you'll go back and replay what Ty just said. I hope you'll write those axioms down, because Ty, as you were writing, as you were saying these axioms, I was writing these down. These are amazing, and I'll send you a royalty check if they wind up in my book somewhere down the line.
Please, no, I have no pride of authorship. Those are just
because I'm not above doing that. Of course, everybody knows that. But those were amazing words of wisdom, guys. And like I said, I hope that you'll listen to this over and over again in the car or on your phone. I hope you'll share it with your friends. This is, tremendous advice, not only in the sport and game of golf, but the sport and game of life. And the overriding theme that we keep coming back to, Ty took that shot. He's been thrown off the saddle. He's gotten back up on that saddle. And we all keep moving forward and we keep grinding. And the examples with Dr. King and John Grisham and Michael Jordan, and there's many of them. Behind any great success is a great failure. I got fired from my first job coming out of Auburn. I was on a losing governor campaign as my second job. So I was 0 for 2 out of the box. So Ty, I can't thank you enough for your time, sharing your wisdom. Ty Votaw, Executive Vice President, Global Business Affairs for the PGA Tour, overseeing all aspects of the Tour's international business and strategy. We thank you today for joining the students of virtual Melt University Summer 2020. Ty, thank you so much.
Great to be with you, and good luck to everybody on the podcast.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.